In 2011, HP killed its brand-new tablet 49 days after it reached stores, a device it had spent $1.2 billion to make possible, the fastest surrender by a major technology company in living memory. 49 days. Not one product cycle, not one Christmas. 7 weeks from launch party to funeral. And here is the detail that makes this story genuinely strange rather than just embarrassing. Of the roughly 270,000 touchpads that HP shipped to stores, only about 25,000 sold. Then HP slashed the price to $99 to clear the warehouses, and the thing sold out everywhere, overnight. People fought over them. By the end of that year, this failed tablet was the second most used tablet in America. So the product was not unwanted. Something else was wrong, and it was buried deep in the software, in a bet the engineers had made years earlier about what computers would be able to do. To understand what was lost, you have to remember what Palm was. In 1992, Jeff Hawkins founded Palm Computing, and a few years later, it shipped the Palm Pilot, the first pocket computer normal people actually bought and used. Before the iPhone, before BlackBerry was everywhere, tens of millions of professionals carried a Palm. It held your calendar, your contacts, your notes, and you wrote on it with a plastic stylus. Palm did not just compete in the handheld market. Palm invented the handheld market. So when Palm announced a brand new operating system at CES in January 2009, with the iPhone not yet 2 years old and Android barely born, the industry paid very close attention. What Palm showed them was, by common agreement, the best mobile software anyone had ever seen. webOS was genuinely, startlingly ahead. Where the iPhone made you back out to a grid of icons to switch apps, webOS gave you cards. Every running app became a little rectangle you could flick through with your thumb and throw off the top of the screen to close. Notifications did not hijack your whole screen with a modal box the way iOS did. They stacked politely at the bottom and waited for you. Search started from anywhere just by typing. Your accounts merged into one contact list automatically. If you are reading this on a modern phone, you are using webOS's ideas right now. Apple and Google both eventually adopted card-style app switching and non-blocking notifications. Palm shipped all of it in June 2009 on the Palm Pre. And underneath that beautiful interface was one very big, very deliberate engineering decision. Palm built webOS's entire user interface out of web technology. Not apps could be web apps, the interface itself. The cards, the animations, the notifications, the apps developers wrote with Palm's Mojo framework, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, rendered by a customized WebKit browser engine that Palm codenamed Luna. Think about how radical that is. On the iPhone, the interface was native code talking almost directly to the hardware. On webOS, the interface was functionally a web page. And the upside was enormous and real. Any web developer on Earth could build for it on day one, with no new language to learn, and Palm's own designers could iterate on the look of the OS at the speed of editing a style sheet. That is why webOS's design ran so far ahead of everyone else's. The team could try ideas in an afternoon that would take a native team a month. The bet was that building the future in web technology would let a small company outdesign giants. And on design, the bet paid off completely. So why did it feel slow? Here is the part that almost never gets explained properly, and it is the whole story. When you flick a card across a modern screen, that animation is drawn by the GPU, the graphics chip built for exactly this. The CPU says, "Move this rectangle," and dedicated silicon does the work. That is why an iPhone in 2009 felt like glass under your finger. But in 2009, mobile browser engines had no reliable path to that graphics chip. Web content was composited on the CPU, the general-purpose processor, doing the work by hand while also running everything else. Palm had built the most animation-heavy interface in the industry on top of the one layer of the system that could not reach the hardware built to do animation. And this was not a Palm coding failure. The gap was in the platform beneath them. The proof is brutal and specific. When engineers later moved webOS's app layer onto WebKit as it existed on iOS, the same code ran about twice as fast, and on comparable hardware Android was measurably quicker than webOS. Same chips, same app. The difference was the layer in between. So on a Palm Pre, hardware roughly on par with an iPhone 3GS, the best designed interface of its generation stuttered, and every reviewer wrote the same word: laggy. Now the lesson worth taking away, and if this is the kind of teardown you want more of, subscribe. This channel does one dead company a week, and the answer is almost always in the architecture. Palm was not wrong about the future. Today, enormous amounts of software you use every day are web technology wrapped in an app, and it works because browser engines finally got GPU-accelerated compositing. Palm's architecture became the industry standard. Palm just arrived about 4 years before the hardware and the browser engines could honor the promise. And that is the trap, because being early does not feel like being early to the person holding the device. It feels like being bad. The customer in the store does not think, this company has bet on a capability that will exist in 2014. They think, this one is jerky, the iPhone is smooth, and they buy the iPhone. A late product gets compared to the leader and looks derivative. An early product gets compared to the leader and looks broken. That is why premature architectural bets are so much more dangerous than conservative ones. You pay the full cost of the innovation immediately, and you collect the benefit only if you survive long enough for the world to catch up. Palm did not survive that long. Nobody handed the company a prize in 2014 for having been right in 2009. The end game was fast and brutal. Palm was running out of money, and in April 2010, HP agreed to buy it for about $1.2 billion, closing that July. HP's plan was genuinely ambitious: put webOS on everything, phones, tablets, even printers, and PCs. On July 1, 2011, HP launched the TouchPad at $499, straight at the iPad. Reviewers called it thick, buggy, and slow. HP's own chief technology officer later admitted the hardware was half a generation or a generation behind the iPad. Retailers moved roughly 25,000 of about 270,000 units. And on August 18th, 49 days after launch, HP announced it was discontinuing all webOS devices, and simultaneously that it was considering spinning off its entire PC business, which told everyone watching that this was not a product decision, it was a panic. HP dropped the TouchPad to $99, and it instantly became the most in-demand tablet in the country, ending the year with around 5% of the tablet market. The webOS experiment ultimately cost HP about $3.3 billion. In December 2011, HP open-sourced webOS, and in 2013 sold the team and the code to LG, where, in one of the great quiet ironies of technology, it still runs today inside millions of LG televisions. So what actually killed Palm and webOS? Not the design. The design was so good that its rivals adopted it. Not HP's money. HP had plenty. What killed it was a timing mismatch baked into the architecture. Palm built its entire interface on a layer of the stack that could not yet reach the graphics hardware, and shipped it to customers who could feel that gap with their thumb instantly in the store without knowing a single thing about compositing. The uncomfortable lesson is that in consumer products, an architectural bet is really a bet on a date. Being right about where computing is going is worth nothing if you ship 2 or 3 years before the platform underneath you can deliver it, because users do not experience your architecture, they experience its symptoms. The $99 fire sale is the proof, and it is almost unbearable. At a price that matched what the software could actually do, people wanted it enormously. Palm did not build a bad product. Palm built a 2013 product and had to sell it in 2009. Palm bet on hardware that had not arrived yet. The opposite mistake is just as fatal, and one company made it at a scale that dwarfs this one. Nokia sold roughly 40% of every phone on Earth and had touchscreen prototypes before the iPhone existed, and it lost everything because its software was optimized brilliantly for a constraint that had quietly expired. If a $1.2 billion surrender in 49 days sounds bad, wait until you see how Nokia lost a $250 billion empire it had already won. That story is on the channel now, and the link is on screen.